Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bangers, Bops, and Banter. This is episode number
47?
Seven?
Yeah, I
think. I forgot to get the podcast episode thing up. Give me 1 second. We'll be there.
47.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm one of your hosts, Joe. I'm here with my co-host, Brendan.
Hi,
I'm really
co-host
prepared.
Brendan.
We have a couple guests today. It's the cue.
Guest one.
Hi everybody, it's Nuno.
Hi guys, it's me, Jonah.
Wow.
Wow.
Thank you for being our guests.
Might be from one of the previous episodes or from school. Again. It's a pleasure to be back on here.
It's great to have you.
All right. We got a cool episode coming up. First, we got some music and movie news that I will get shortly.
We can do the question first.
Yeah. Then we'll have a question of the week. This week our question is, what is the most underrated album of all time? Pretty honestly a really hard question to answer. It's just there's so many albums that like people have just never heard. Brendan knows.
I know
what I'm talking about. He has a bunch of records up his sleeve.
We'll get to that when we get to the question.
But yeah. And then we're gonna be talking about the album The Moon Antarctica by Modest Mouse.
Yep.
Cool, I got the title right.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna be discussing the movie event of the year, Big Monkey versus Big Lizard.
Yeah. I mean, so far it's the highest grossing movie of the year, isn't it? So
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What is it, April? I guess there's not that much competition though, right?
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's also people are getting vaccinated now, so
True.
people are more comfortable returning to theaters. But yeah. Let's start with the question of the week while I quickly get news, because I forgot.
All right. So yeah, what was the most underrated album? Do the people in the call besides me want to tackle this one?
Yeah, I'll go first. Jonah from school. My personal most underrated album, I think, is also one of my favorites. Is Achievement, Pilot Red Sun.
Okay.
Yeah. I think just because I like it, and also I don't feel like what I feel like it's really kind of like a nice little gem that nobody really talks about, or is very like it's kind of it's like out there, So I think it's I look at the vibes or whatever. It makes me feel something that like not a whole lot of albums I've never seen an album do. I think it's kind of a shame that like it's not like more popular, it isn't appreciated as much as I'd like it to.
Definitely.
Do you have any thoughts?
So I initially jokingly answered Humans.
We'll get to Humans.
I wanted to have a good gap about it. But if I was gonna say like an album that I listen to that I think is underrated, I would say Slough by Naked Giants.
Okay.
I only found out about them because they were the opening act for the Valentine's Day Car Seat Headrest concert I went to. And Slough is a really kick-ass album, but I've never heard anybody else talk about them. So I think they've kind of gone under the radar for folks, and I think that's kind of a bummer because they released last year The Shadow, which I haven't given a full listen to yet, but from what my girlfriend says, it's a really good album, and I trust her musical opinions. So,
all right,
go check them out.
I've been meaning to listen to Naked Giants for a while, just have never gotten around to it. We'll let Joe figure out some news.
Well, I have one that I just want to quickly say, which is specifically All This We Do for Glory by Colin Stetson.
Ooh, yep.
I feel like a lot of people know Colin Stetson and kind of know Um, I, they know a lot of his work, but I feel like all this that I Do for Glory is like somewhat underappreciated.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like an actual masterpiece of a record. It's incredible. And I just don't see anyone talk about it like ever. I think people should. Just one of the most interesting like instrumental records I've ever heard. Amazing. Would highly recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I think it's an amazing record. I think we actually recommended it to Nuno last time he was on.
Oh yeah, we did.
I did end up listening to that like 3 days in a week. It's very good to put on when I was doing repairs on laptops. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
It's very nice for like spacing out. It's like kind of trippy, it's very cool. But from the other people in our Discord, we have Confessions of a Dangerous Mind by Logic. This is from someone who, this album is definitely like his guilty pleasure. Like he knows it's not good, but goddamn, is it funny?
He just wants to be bipolar like Kanye, so he can make good music. Like, come on.
We have a. I mean, it's certainly an album. It's an album. Lulu by Lou Reed and Metallica. I gotta agree with that one. I do think it's underrated.
It's like a decent record. I think people seriously underappreciate what that record like did. It's incredibly interesting.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jonah, for that one. It's an interesting choice, and it takes a lot of courage to say that. Lulu is underrated. We also have Sublimes Self-Titled, which I personally disagree with. I don't think that record's very good.
I don't think it's underrated either. Even if I really liked it, I wouldn't say it's underrated. A lot of people really love that record.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly popular. Sublime's pretty appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
In music.
Then we have New Heaven by 123, which I've listened to Confetti. I haven't listened to the entire album. I wasn't like that impressed with Confetti, so I don't know. I don't actually know much about this album or about 123 as a whole, but if you like it, all power to you. We have Cold Fact by Rodriguez, which we actually covered on the podcast quite a while ago now.
It's weird. I don't feel like that album's underrated either. Like, I feel like that's appropriately appreciated at this point.
At this point, definitely. And a lot of that is because of the documentary that came out about, searching for Sugar Man. But I definitely think before that documentary, like, that was definitely much, much rarer to be discussed. Also, No Dogs Allowed by Sidney Gish, which, I mean, if you're an indie kid, like, please check out No Dogs Allowed. I think it's definitely like right up that kind of alley.
And I do not enjoy it at all.
I don't mind it.
Jonah, you go. Sorry.
I was gonna say I can't say I've listened to the album. I've listened to one Sidney Gish album that I do not remember because my crush said that he liked it. Not a fan personally. Not at all.
We'll agree. It's I just think it sounds like kind of bad Mac DeMarco to me. It has a bunch of like the same ideas and kind of tropes that Mac uses in his music, but it's not as rich and engaging as his music is, and I also think the lyrical themes are just like very boring and standard. So
gotcha.
Not a big...
It's very much like a bedroom pop song for college girls because it was written by a college girl.
Yeah, she's literally recording it like in her college dorm.
Yeah.
At Wentworth, right? So
no, Northeastern. Tangential. She actually just graduated 2 years ago.
Yeah. It's cool. Yeah. So for me, answering this question, it took a bit of whittling down. I initially compiled a list of over 100 albums, and I narrowed that down to 10.
What? You made a list of 100 albums for this one question.
Well, yeah, because I needed to narrow it down to 10. So I made a list of the album, like my rating of the album, and then I also put the number of Spotify monthly listeners for each of these artists. And then I sorted it by least number of monthly listeners, maybe cut a few and I think I got a pretty good 10 here that I'm happy with. We'll start the most popular by Spotify monthly listeners, and that is Fire Tools with Interbeing. Fire Tools is, I describe them as vaporcore. They're very interesting. I think they're a duo, where they're combining these elements of like vaporwave with some very like aggressive, screams and harsh sounds, stuff like that. But I like Interbeing. I've listened to pretty much their entire discography, and I don't think a lot of their albums are super consistent, but I think Interbeing solves a lot of the problems that a lot of the other albums have. I remember seeing a post on like the Fantano subreddit of like one of Anthony's Twitter posts where he posted about their 2020 album, and he's like, why hasn't anybody ever told me about this before? And then Fire Tools responded being like, we've been sending you these albums for 5 years. But yeah, so they're on there. They're at 5,365 monthly listeners on Spotify. Check them out. They sound interesting. Next up is Yellow Swans with Going Places. And I've seen this album actually starting to gain a little bit of traction in like online communities. I definitely it got recommended to me from online communities, where they like had a listening party of this album. I highly recommend this album if you're like into, I guess it's post rock, but I don't know. It's definitely like that kind of vibe, I'd say. So yeah, Yellow Swans with 2,983 monthly listeners. Next up is Natural Snow Buildings with Daughter of Darkness. I love this album. I actually posted this one in the chat. This is 7 hours and 20 minutes of like psychedelic drone folk music, French drone folk music, I guess. I really like Natural Snow Buildings. I think they make like really good music. It's very, very much a vibe. Definitely recommend starting with the Snowbringer Cult, which is only 2.5 hours long if you're interested. I also have it on vinyl. Vinyls look great. I love the art for it. Yeah, check them out. Also, after that, we have Beauty Pill with The Unsustainable Lifestyle. This is the first Beauty Pill album. Beauty Pill is a band with like the lead singer from another band that was on this list called Farquet. We have this album called The View from the Tower, which is like an underrated like math rock classic. Swear to God. But anyway, Unsustainable Lifestyle I think is really good. Lots of really solid tracks off of it. Next we have Quebrus, Quebrus, and the album title is a bunch of like triangle symbols, so I can't really pronounce it. This is like easily one of the most creative albums I've ever heard. It just, all the sounds are so like alien. It's insane. It's just like really, really interesting stuff. Definitely very inaccessible as well. But if you want to hear something you've never heard before, check it out. Next up is The Red Crayola with The Parable of Arable Land. This is like very early experimental rock. This is like 60s or something. This album came out, and it's just something that's very, very interesting. Lots of creativity there, lots of experimentation, especially given the time. It's kind of insane. Next up is Shibusashi Razu with it's the Fish album. I don't know the like English title. They're Japanese jazz fusion band orchestra, I guess. I learned about them actually from a Fantano video where I think the Fantano question was like, what's the most underrated album? And somebody posted one of their albums and he featured it. But yeah, would recommend. They're some crazy jazz. Now we get into the ones with less than 1,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. We have Stice with Here Come the Baton. I actually talked about this album in our like mid-year 2020 list video. But Stice is really, really weird music. I said then that Stice's music could best be described as disgusting, and that's not a bad thing, I think. You really just kind of have to experience it. It's just like, it's a lot. Next up is Forest Step with Karaul, I think is how it's pronounced. Forest Step is like Russian folk, drone folk, like tape music kind of stuff. I think this album, Karaul, is like just really, really solid drone folk. And finally, my most underrated pick is Apple Rabbits, who have 40 monthly listeners on Spotify, but his EP called Oberkampf, I think is like really solid. It's like 4 tracks, like 15 minutes long. Check it out. It's like some outsider folk music. So yeah, very interesting stuff. I found out about that from a Kai Whiston tweet where he was asking about like outsider music, and somebody posted that as a response. So cool. Yeah.
Cool. Wow.
Wow. Y'all want some underrated stuff.
Yeah.
I think 40 monthly listeners. That's.
I mean, that's almost as many subscribers as we have. Like,
oh shit! You're right.
Yeah.
Damn. Please subscribe. By the way.
Yeah.
Hit that like button. Share it with your friends.
Ring the bell as well.
Yes, of course. Don't comment if you're one of those porn bots. Please don't do
Honestly,
that.
sometimes their comments are kind of funny. Like,
well, what do they usually comment? 'Cause I've only ever seen one.
So there's the ones that just like post random links. I've never like followed the links. I don't know where they go to. I don't even think some of them are real websites. But there's the other ones that like they just post a timestamp and they're like, oh, so hot or something like that.
Well, I think when they do that, because I'm pretty sure posting timestamps does actually like boost engagement.
Yep.
Yeah. So please comment timestamps, please.
Comment timestamps all the time.
Yeah.
Porn bots, hit me up.
Well, let's go. One other record I quickly want to mention because I forgot about it. Is Idol by Horrendous.
Yep.
Amazing metal record. I wouldn't say it's necessarily underrated in terms of like people's actual rating of it, but just like
it's just not
that many people have heard about it.
Yeah.
I know Anthony Fantano gave it like a 9 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an amazing metal record. Would highly recommend.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
That was in my like top 20. Another one of my top 20 I just want to shout out real quick is Carboniferous by Zoo, which we've covered on the channel before, but
yeah,
definitely check out Carboniferous. Fantastic jazz noise metal album thing.
Yeah. Experience.
It's an experience.
But yeah. With that, we can move on to music and movie news that I got.
Yeah.
So first in music news, Apple Music claims that in contrast to Spotify, they pay on average a penny per stream. Which is actually that's like a really fucking good rate.
Yeah.
I must say.
It's really good. Wow.
Yeah. 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 Cool.
Yeah.
Good job, Apple Music. Doing not as shitty of a job as Spotify. Man, I did not find much. Not a ton happened this week.
That's fine.
Vince Staples says he has 2 new albums on the way, which is a lot.
That is a lot.
Yeah,
When was the last time he released an album?
like 2018. It's been a while.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
don't even know
FM
if it was
2018.
necessarily. I don't even know if it was necessarily an album. It was more like a mixtape with FM.
Yeah,
But yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, that's basically it for music news. For movie news, the new Spider-Man movie, we're getting some cool stuff. Alfred Molina, who played Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man 2, is coming back as Doc Ock in the new Spider-Man movie, which is pretty cool, I must
That's
say.
very cool.
Yeah. Now we have it's gonna be really confusing. Because we have Tobey Maguire also and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna be wild.
Weird.
Yeah. This is basically it for movie news. There's also a trailer out for Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, I think it is. If you want to go watch that. And yeah, that's it. There you go. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Boom.
Great news. Thank you.
Excellent.
Let's go. Cool. All right. Well, with that, we can get into talking about the album.
The album.
The album.
So this week's album is The Moon and Antarctica by Modest Mouse. Joe and I kind of chose this album on a whim last week because we're trying to listen to albums from a tier list, and this is on the tier list. Neither of us had listened to it previously, and we're listening to it now. Also kind of figured that somebody would be on the podcast that would at least enjoy this album, and we got the two people that enjoy it. Neither of the ones which are the ones we were planning for. So.
Yeah.
But it's okay. We got you two beautiful boys.
That hurts. Hate B second pick.
Well, we just said there was somebody who explicitly expressed interest in Kong versus Godzilla who couldn't make it today, unfortunately.
I see. Gotcha. Yeah.
I know, Nuno, I know you listen to like a lot of Modest Mouse, so.
Big time. I am a sucker for Modest Mouse. This was actually the first time, though, that I've ever listened to The Moon in Antarctica.
Really?
I've listened to Lonesome Crowded West extensively. I've listened to A Long Trip for Someone with Nothing to Think About. I think that's what it's called.
Yep. This is a long drive for someone with nothing to think about.
Long drive. Thank you. Extensively. I've listened to Good News for People Like Bad News extensively, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
We Were Dead, like, before ship sank. Extensively. Even Strangers to Ourselves, like, extensively. And I'm not even that crazy about Strangers to Ourselves. And I had never listened to The Moon and Antarctica.
Really? This is like, I feel like this is widely considered their best along with The Lonesome Crowded West, so.
Oh, big time. I had a friend of mine, it was the weirdest experience, because I start listening to it, and then a friend of mine shoots me a message with just a screenshot of Spotify, and he goes, so you listen to the album. Pretty good album, right? And I was like, I just started listening to it, but yeah, it's pretty good. And he's like, yeah, this album like changed my life. It is very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Don't fuck I love it dearly. If you ever want like to listen to it on vinyl or something like that, like let me know. I will lend you my vinyl. He is passionate about that, and I can totally see why. Yeah, this was an excellent album.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
What? Well, people are typing, and I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. Oh.
We're just typing. Don't worry about it.
Did we put this?
Anyways, yeah. So previously the only like Modest Mouse record I had like listened to fully is Good News for People Who Love Bad Nudes, and that's just for the meme of Float On. Which Float On is a really good song. It's a really good Modest Mouse song. I went through their entire discography in the past week because I was like, I've been meaning to listen to Modest Mouse. They seem interesting. And I started with This Is a Long Drive for someone with nothing to think about. I was like, oh, this is nothing like Float On. This is like actually really good. And then just went through all their stuff. I gotta say, the Moon in Antarctica is my favorite easily. I think this album really combines the best of the style of the kind of previous two records of more drawn out compositions that are very guitar like heavy, and the more lyrical. I feel like, not to say that the previous two albums aren't lyrical, but definitely like Good News for People Who Love Bad News is going a more lyrically driven direction than those albums. I think this album definitely combines those two styles, where there are tracks here that have drawn out compositions. Like, for example, The Stars Are Projectors, and right after that, Wild Packs of Family Dogs. Like, I feel like those two songs kind of exemplify the two sides that Modest Mouse can have, where, Stars Are Projectors, 8 minutes, 46 seconds long. I think it's a great song. You have strong choruses as well, just over this very lush instrumentation. And Wild Packs of Family Dogs is like, it's a folk song almost. But it's still just, it's still great. It's short. It gets to the point. It's catchy. I don't know. I think a lot of the songs on this record just have a lot of really great qualities to them, whether it be their catchiness or their instrumentation, or the writing on them. Yeah, I've been talking for a while, so I should stop.
No, I absolutely agree. And this is one of the most, I think, concise albums lyrically of the Modest Mouse albums I've listened to. Good News for People Who Like Bad News. A lot of it's kind of lofty with its analogies, and some of them can get a little muddied up and you can start to lose it. But even like Wild Packs of Family Dogs, as obscure as that sounds, once you start to listen to it, it becomes very clear, like, this is a topic about, like, there's suffering in my family, and I can't comprehend that because I'm just a kid, and my mother bleeds. My mother cries blood dust, which sounds like it makes no sense, but you get this vision of, like, she's been crying so hard and for so long that it's been blood, and then the blood's dried up and it's just dust now. It's nothing. And it's just, you get such a vivid image of, like, misery. But again, our singer is so, like, he's so young and he's so out of it that these things happen and he can't comprehend it. So dad lost his job, but it's whatever, we'll be fine. It'll be okay. And it just gives it, like, this album, it took a while for the weight of it to really settle in on me. Because I remember listening to it the first time and I was like, this is all right. It's kind of spacey. It's kind of out there. That's cool. But then, like, by the second and third time, the weight of it really started to sit on me. And I remember driving in the car on my way home and having, like, an existential crisis. Because I was, like, all the misery started to dwell on me. And it just, the cold part of the world started to just hit differently. And I'm like, oh, everything is bad and sad and death is bad.
Yeah. If the first three Modest Mouse records are, like, really good for existential crises, I think.
Yeah.
It's pretty in your face about it, I must say. There's a lot of lyrics that are very, like, overt in their imagery. Like on Tiny Cities Made of Ashes. We're going down the road towards tiny cities made of ashes. Literally.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. It's very I feel like the first song on the record does a very good job of, or I guess the very first lyric on the first song of the record does a good job of kind of summing up like the ideas in it, which is just everything that keeps me together is falling apart. Just like, you know, you're collapsing.
Yeah.
It's all right. You're coming apart.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. I do think I do love a lot of the more weird and out there tracks, like Tiny Cities Made of Ashes. I really love. Just how weird, how out there the instrumentation on that track is. Like you have these like shimmering synths on it with the like these like filtered vocals. Kind of it feels it does feel like an existential crisis of a song.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I do feel like this record tends to have a lot of the quieter tracks on this record. I'm not a big fan of, like the Perfect Disguise, the previous track. I just don't really get into. It's just very to me. Not much happens in it. I think that's like my problem with some of it is just there are tracks that I find that not much happens within them, basically. And because I really like the weirdness of it, that gives it this very out there existential feel. But I think that sometimes that's not quite there for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, I think Perfect Disguise is kind of a bit lacking of a track. I think there are some other tracks here. Like, so I Came as a Rat is one that speaks out to me, where it's like, it starts off pretty strong and then it goes through this like minute-long breakdown, which is like weird, but it's not that interesting, I guess.
Yeah,
it just kind of feels out of place, I think.
I think for me, it's just the vocals on it sound just like awkward in a way that contrasts with the song in a bad way. Like they're very, not the vocals on the choruses, but like just the verses where he's kind of just talking, but it's in like this weird pattern. It just like, I don't know, it just kind of takes me out of the track. I feel like they could have kept it. I feel like they could have achieved the effect they're going for in a different way that makes it sound less just
Gotcha.
What's it called? I am of the, as this seems to be a common trend at this point, I am of the actual opposite. So I Came as a Rat, I will totally agree. I think it's sort of, that end bit is just like, and maybe I'm gonna give like what's his name the credit and say that this is supposed to be imagery, and that is the tail of the rat, you know, where you have all the rat chunking right in the front, and then it's tail of the rat, and that's just me grasping.
But yeah, it's Isaac Brock, and I looked this up. Apparently, he's throughout Modest Mouse's career, he's the only continuing thread. All the other people around Isaac Brock have changed over the years, but he's still there, being a singer and songwriter.
Interesting. But yeah, back to it. Perfect Disguise, though, I actually really like Perfect Disguise, and I think part of it is because of how it stands so stark to Dark Center of the Universe and how like punchy and just in it goes. And then Perfect Disguise is like the fact that you have go from this real punchy, going hard jam to this very mellow, like just a little bit of not acoustic, but like, you know, more delicate guitar. I really like that, and I think that's what makes those songs especially stick out in my head whenever I think about this album, is just that duality. Because then Tiny Cities Made of Ashes then starts to pick it up again, and not to the degree of Dark Center of the Universe, but you're starting to get like the more agitated Misery coming in, and it's like, all right, you know, we had a big supernova, a big boom.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're gonna roll it back in.
I think for me, like that effect is like achieved for me on like the cold part, where you have these kind of very bleak sounding tracks.
Mhm.
I don't know. I just something about like Perfect Disguise didn't like do enough for me, because like the cold part has this really beautiful like kind of eerie violin on it, that's just like present in the background.
Mhm.
It just has this like foreshadowing, like looming feeling to it, I guess is the way I describe it. I do wish, like, I think that contrast is pretty good throughout the record. It's just I feel sometimes those songs just aren't as interesting as I think they could be.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. I definitely want to say I think that sort of bleakness of the instrumentation throughout the album is very, very present. I think it very much helps this record. Like you said, on the cold part, I feel like a couple other tracks as well, like Dark Center of the Universe and Lives, for example. There's just something depressing and barren about the instrumentation, especially on the like Lives, that little like end bit where it comes in as it started, which kind of also is how the track works, where it's like life sucks, life's not too bad, and then life sucks. So yeah, fun stuff.
Feels almost like it's a contrast between like a depression and then paranoia, that like everything is about to just come crashing down and you become depressed again.
I was actually about to then mention Paper Thin Walls, which is like paranoia to its nth degree. These walls are paper thin and everyone hears every little sound. Everyone's a voyeurist. They're watching me, watch them, watch me right now. Besides the fact that this song is like, all the lyrics are really sort of unhinged, I love the instrumentation on it. It's so like, it's got a lot of good energy. I don't know how to describe it, but it's a gym, you know? Like, you get a couple of friends to go together and you all just laugh hard. It's a long way to the bank, you know? And you're just feeling it.
You can definitely jam to like a lot of these tracks.
Yeah.
I don't... maybe not as many as on records like Good News, but there's definitely, there's that kind of fun indie vibe to quite a few of these as well. Definitely Modest Mouse's kind of weirdness thrown in to spice it up as well. Excuse me.
Excuse
me.
One more
Sorry,
time.
I'm ruining this review.
One other thing that I like is that the whole album covers a lot of like different things, different aspects of like, and this is honestly, now I'm thinking about it, thinking to my friend, part of why I think my friend likes this album so much and why it was so like important to him is just how it covers every single piece of like being in a bad headspace, being depressed, or watching things happen, being paranoid. Because I remember listening to the album and Alone Down There had hit me with a right hook, because I was not expecting this idea of like people thinking about like, well, what about when I die? And like usually when songs think about death, it's usually the infinite end, you know? There's just blackness once you die. And Alone Down There is this whole song about like, well, when I die, I don't want to be alone in hell, you know? Or rather, I think I looked it up and it was more like Isaac Brock had a hallucination where he was talking with Satan, and Satan was telling him like, come to hell because I'm lonely. And even then, that was like a really interesting concept, because nobody wants to be alone, you know? And the idea that like if you die and you're the only one in hell, You and Satan, it's like that's kind of miserable, and that can definitely add into the million things that you're worrying about. Is like, well, what about when I die? You know, am I going to die? When will I die? And am I going to be by myself for eternity?
I'm sure Satan's a cool dude though. Like he had a lovely chat with Isaac, so you know.
Yeah, he was pretty good in that Lil Nas X music video too.
Yeah.
And he certainly can play a mean fiddle.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, not as good as Johnny, right?
True.
What, Johnny Greenwood? I bet you Johnny Greenwood can play a fiddle.
I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I guess.
He plays so many fucking instruments, man.
Yeah.
But yeah.
He did compose There Will Be Blood, and I think There Will Be Blood has some fiddle things, so I wouldn't be surprised.
All right.
He's an amazing composer. Like, go listen to the soundtracks he's composed for. They're, like, incredible. Anyway, this is off topic.
I don't know. Do you guys... I kind of, like... I could say more things, but I also want to get to the movie, so...
Yeah. I guess we'll wrap up. I guess for my final thoughts, I think this is a really great, very interesting... It's a very lonely feeling indie record, I'd say. I don't think... There's certainly lyrics that I think talk about like depression, but I think the overall vibe is more just loneliness in this record. And I think that is really well done, although I do think there are some tracks here and there that I'm not that big of a fan of. I think it's still a really interesting, great record. There's a ton of really interesting little musical ideas presented throughout. I would definitely recommend it. It's like an 8 to an 8.5. I think it's a great record. Would recommend.
Yeah. I definitely would also recommend this album. Going from not listening to like any Modest Mouse to listening to a lot of Modest Mouse, this record definitely was like a standout. Also, if you're like into indie, especially like Car Seat Headrest, if you've never listened to the first 3 Modest Mouse albums, please go listen to them. I feel like there's a lot of crossover appeal, especially with those first 2. But I think this album is just a great album. There's a ton of great tracks here. It's very heavy, very lonely, as we're saying. But the musicianship is there, the production's there. It's, I don't know, there's a lot to love in my opinion about this record, and there's very few songs that really don't sit well with me. Yeah, I'm at like a 9.5 out of 10 on this album.
Yeah, I would say this is definitely a hard recommendation for me. I already like Modest Mouse, so going into it, it's a lot more of Modest Mouse. I think especially if you are one of those folks like me who has that itch of, I need something that's kind of depressing, but today is not a day for the microphones because I still need things that I need to do later. This would definitely be something. It will scratch that itch totally, but will not destroy you so much that you have to like lay on the floor for a couple hours. Because boy, oh boy, do I have a like dangerous relationship with the Glow Part 2. I would say this is I'd say this is an 8.5 out of 10, just because I really, really like Lonesome Crowded West over this. But that's just me.
That's your opinion.
Have you listened to Death Consciousness?
I tried listening to it when you guys had done the big review, and I remember starting it, and it was just so... I just wasn't in a headspace for it, and it was so obtuse that I was like, I can't accurately listen to this album. I'm going to have to pick a different day. And then I just never picked a different day.
That's okay.
So I still need to get around to it. I think I got as far as the worm eating Connecticut or something.
That's the first track.
So.
Oh, well then, yeah, I made it nowhere.
That's okay.
Oh, man.
That was
If you,
my
like,
night last night. Was laying down and crying, listening to
Yeah.
that. So
Fun.
anyways,
Yeah.
now on to the movie that also made me cry.
Movie.
Godzilla versus Kong.
This move, yeah. So, little introduction for people who aren't aware. Uh, King Kong is a character from a 1933 film, where he's on an island and he is captured by white people and he's shown off to all the other white people, and he dies. And Godzilla is a 1950
It's
something
in the
film.
50s. I know
Yeah.
that. I forget when.
And Godzilla is literally he's a metaphor for nukes. He is
Very
a
much
nuclear
is.
bomb essentially. And in this new movie, the King Kong, a giant monkey who is essentially a metaphor for the slave trade, and Godzilla, a giant lizard who is a metaphor for nuclear annihilation, punch each other a lot. And and then they fight. Well, spoilers. Then they fight Mecha Godzilla, and then
And then 11 from Stranger Things is also there for the first 40 minutes.
Don't even get me started.
okay, So I guess thought was everyone's general thoughts?
So this is like a dumb action movie, right? And I said this. We watched this earlier today. I said earlier, the kind of standout dumb action movie is Pacific Rim, where Pacific Rim knows why you're there. You want to see robots punch dinosaurs, aliens, whatever, and it just gives you that. And it's a fun film. Pacific Rim is fun. I don't remember a single thing that happens, but I had fun watching it.
I remember so many things from Pacific Rim, and it's all action. I don't remember anything about the characters.
Oh yeah,
But it's all like.
That's how it
I
should
couldn't
be.
name a single character from Pacific Rim.
There's that one where the fucking robot gets the sword. Like, they just have a sword and they cut the fucking bird monster in half in the middle of the air. And then there's also, like, I think Pacific Rim is like a really good film that does a really good job of showing you the scale of everything that's fighting, and everything feels like everything feels massive in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. I think, definitely some props to all the CG guys that worked on that movie.
Oh yeah.
Like, not only that, but I think the giant, even just the giant robots in that movie. Like, I don't remember a whole lot, but I do remember how cool they looked and how they were giant robots, obviously, but they stood out. Like, it didn't feel like they felt like it's kind of like some kind of actual vision was behind them.
Yeah, and definitely
which
all
is
the robots
strange for an action movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they're really cool.
Oh yeah, right.
Even the 3-armed Jaeger that gets murked almost instantly.
Yeah,
but they had 3 arms, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Legendary does a really good job with the visual effects. It's unfortunate that this movie has less fighting than King of the Monsters. Very frustrating.
I should mention, we haven't seen. I've only seen the 2014 Godzilla, which I think sucks.
Yeah,
but that movie has the problem where it's a human drama that has Godzilla essentially kind of as a backdrop until the very end, and he's this living disaster in the film, which is a good concept, but all the characters are insanely boring and poorly written in that movie. So I just have zero interest in the film. And this film, it sort of has that problem as well, where you focus a lot on these human characters who are so poorly written, it's insane. It's really, really, really stupid writing, but on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear it knows it's a big action movie, so it's just here's dumb,
conspiracy dude.
Oh my god!
No writer is taking themselves seriously writing that character.
Yeah,
absolutely not. I think what's interesting about that is I think with 2014's Godzilla, which I watched, I think some of the even like there are clips of some of the older Godzilla movies that are with like English subtitles made in Japan, that kind of thing. Like the human to human stuff was still like very closely related to with the action, right? So with the old stuff, it was like all the drama was going on in like the general's room. You know, they're like, what do we do about this? Or like in the 2014 one, there's like a soldier, but and his family's in the city that's being attacked, or like or something like, or one of the ones is a scientist and they're working on this thing. But in this movie, like they're in some fucking lab that's not related. It's loosely connected to what's going on, but there's no like. It's just like it feels so separate from what's going on. Whereas the other stuff, like you feel like you're there, like it's actually part of it. You know, like even with like what you said, it's like Brendan, it's like a human drama with Godzilla as the background. Like even that, it felt like they're part of the same story, whereas this is like completely disconnected from each other until like the very end, I guess.
Yeah.
For perspective, so I watched King Kong versus Godzilla with my girlfriend last week. Last week. And I watched that, and I was throughout the entire movie. I was like, here's a fun story. There was so little fighting in what was supposed to be an action movie, that a drunken man who had gone to the movie as well walked up to the top row where me and my girlfriend were watching the movie, and when am I allowed to say swears on the show?
Yeah.
Well, yes.
Okay. He goes, "Where the fuck is Godzilla?" Fucking bullshit! I paid for Godzilla and he's not on the fucking screen. And then he stumbled out, and that was the last time I saw him. 10 minutes after that was the first fight with Godzilla and King Kong.
You probably saw 11 from Stranger Things and was like, "What the fuck am I doing? Like, what is this bitch doing in here?"
Yeah, so tangent aside, after watching that, and I was sort of underwhelmed because I was like, all right, the character drama was boring, and I hate Millie Bobby Brown's character. I think Millie Bobby Brown's character is insufferable. I hated her in King of the Monsters. I hated her now. She was semi-sufferable in King of the Monsters because she didn't play that much of a role. She played a role in the sense that she was the reason why the plot finally like wrapped up, but she wasn't like the main character. And with this movie, the way that it felt like she was framed is she's the main character. She's uncovering the truth about Mechagodzilla, and that whole plot line was pointless because you didn't have to explain that they were building Mechagodzilla, because you would have had as much impact if you just went, they're having the big fight, and then Mechagodzilla appears, and you go, oh my gosh. But regardless, I watched Shin Godzilla with my girlfriend this week. And the way that they went about doing the human aspect with Godzilla was so much better because...
I'm sorry, that like Shin Godzilla is just like such a different film than this.
This is true, but like that was sort of, I guess, what I was looking for. If they were going to do a human element, that was what I was looking for, because the whole thing with Shin Godzilla was it was based around the bureaucratic system of Japan, and everything. There was no Millie Bobby Brown that was sliding down, murder slides, and then, oh, we're alive and we're being held up by the evil corporation, and they didn't just gun us down. They brought us straight to the guy who's in charge, which is like, why?
So that they can see him get fucking murdered by Mechagodzilla.
And all of it was just like, and I realize it's a big stupid action movie. I shouldn't be mad about that. But I was also like, we spent so much time watching King Kong have like his heroic cycle, or whatever they call it, the hero's path.
Hero's journey.
Hero's journey, thank you. Where he goes from being a scrub lord getting his butt kicked by Godzilla to going to the center of the earth and then reclaiming that he's king, and then getting a nuclear axe because he can. And then it becomes a buddy cop film where they go, I hated you because you were monkey, but now I recognize that we can live together on this earth. Come on.
Where Godzilla like punches Kong and then he smirks. He's like a shitty eating grin on his face.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I don't know. I kind of wish they just make one of these movies where there's literally no human characters and it's all the entire plot is just based around Kong and Godzilla, and they use like their body language and everything to communicate what's going on in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And
Would King Kong use sign language in that version like he does in this movie? Like the only human character is like a 12-year-old girl whom he like signals to and stuff.
Yeah.
What was that?
Oh no.
The monkey has to be a sympathetic character, okay? And we can't have a sympathetic character if they can't talk. Apparently. Movie writing 101, guys.
Monkey biscuit. Can we have a Shaun the Sheep movie but with Godzilla and King Kong? Please.
The thing is, that movie would be really good, honestly, because like they know how to make movies. I forget the name of the
Shaun the Sheep
studio.
Shaun the Sheep and like some fucking chicken in a barn, and that's it. That's the movie. And Shaun the Sheep also uses sign language to communicate with the farmer. And the first 40 minutes is just the farmers talking before Shaun the Sheep and the chicken like fight.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of fights, can I dunk on the fights real quick?
Sure.
Go for it. I'm right behind you.
Have you ever watched a movie and like there's two people are fighting and like one guy punches the other guy and then the other guy has like a broken nose or something, right?
Yeah.
Or like two mechs fight, the Pacific Rim, right? And like the guy cuts the monster and the monster like bleeds a little bit. There's none of that in this movie. Like King Kong and Godzilla will punch each other. They'll both get like hit by machine guns. They'll have like bombs thrown at them and stuff. And then they look exactly the same after. There's no change. And I think that's why I didn't really like the action all that much, because it felt like they were just kind of slapping each other, you know? Like they weren't showing any signs of wearing. Like, and then like Hong Kong, I'm so sorry, King Kong like falls down and they have to like resuscitate him by shocking his heart with a bomb or something. Like literally, like that's the way. He went down without, there were no scars on him or anything. They literally like he had a heart attack. Fuck you. We're not animating his wounds or anything like that.
He had boo-boos on his chest, little scrapes and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, he also probably had like internal bleeding or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
monkey anatomy.
Yeah, like, but yeah, it felt like there was no real like tension. The only thing that gets cut up or destroyed is Mechagodzilla at the very end. It gets like his arms ripped off and shit. And that show was awesome, but it didn't have. There wasn't anything with that with like the main characters.
Yeah. I have to say, the fighting also doesn't. There's not enough weight behind like punches and stuff in the film. Like if you compare this to Pacific Rim, the robots and the monsters in Pacific Rim like move slowly. Like they move like they're fucking massive. And like punches feel like they have so much weight behind them and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas here they just everything's like slightly too fast for it to feel like it has like the impact that it should. You know, it feels more like it feels like Kong and Godzilla are like only like 10 feet tall and they're fighting in like a model version of Hong Kong. there's guys in suits punching each other. Like it's just not, they're not big, like they feel like they're too small for how they move, basically.
No, I get that.
Yeah, there are like some parts in the action that I really like. Like there's POV shots that are pretty cool. where the camera's just basically, it's like they fucking took a GoPro and just attached it to like Kong, and you just see him like, you see his like fist, and you're just attached to his arm as he punches Godzilla, and that stuff's cool. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the entire movie, I kind of just felt underwhelmed. I like reflecting on my experience. I did not enjoy it as much as I thought I did, or was hoping to.
I mean,
same.
yeah.
I didn't like go in with high expectations, you know, and I was like, okay, at least at least with like when we watched the 4 hour long Snyder cut or whatever, I was like, I got bored and I checked my phone. With this, I was like, this isn't gonna happen because it's like an action movie that has like characters that I'm kind of interested in it, but and then I just ended up like bored halfway through. Like even during the fighting, I wasn't like super engaged. You know, it was very disappointing.
That's really like the bummer of it. So you guys didn't see King of the Monsters, right?
No.
Yeah. King of the Monsters was genuinely one of the hypest experiences I had in 2018 watching movies. And I saw The Meg. The Meg, by the way, one of the stupidest action films I've seen in a while. I remember calling it when Jason Statham stabbed... Spoiler alert for The Meg. Jason Statham flies up in the air and stabs the Meg in the eye with a piece of rebar. And I remember going... I swear, if he stabs him in the eye with rebar, I'm leaving. And then they did it, and I was like, there we go. It's as dumb as I was hoping. But anyways, King of the Monsters was genuinely one of the hypest things. It was because it gave me everything I was looking for. The focus was never on the human characters except as a way to explain the whole Mothra plot. And they kept it fresh because they kept giving us what we wanted, which was monsters fighting. You have the fight in Antarctica with King Ghidorah, and then the fight again with King Ghidorah. Rodan shows up. Mothra shows up. Godzilla's getting his ass kicked, but then he gets the super nuke powers, and everyone's like, wow. And you got all this stuff going on, and everything's always going, and like all the human characters take a back seat because that's how they're supposed to go. They're just there to remind us that these are giant monsters that are destroying civilization. In this movie, they went, now that was great and all, but it's time to give King Kong a character arc. And it's time to focus on that instead of why you're here, which is Kong versus Godzilla. I want two stupid monkeys, a monkey and a lizard punching it. I want lasers. I want dumb stuff. And it just did not sell. I didn't think about it until now, but you guys are 100% on the money with like every single hit feeling super, super lame. Because I think I thought about that during the boat scene especially. It felt like Godzilla, who was supposed to be like here to exterminate the other apex predator, it felt like he was pulling punches. And the fact that he didn't kill off Godzilla right there was like...
Yeah, definitely. Like Godzilla had a huge advantage in that fight. And it's just like, he just lets it go. It's like, what?
Yeah, I think, like, come to think of it, thinking about the boat scene, like the two fighting, like there was a scene like that in Neon Genesis Evangelion where the mech and the thing are fighting on the ocean.
Yeah.
It was actually like interesting. And I was like, I care about the people involved. And like they can drown. You know, there's tension. Like we have a fucking monkey.
Is this movie just a recreation of Evangelion?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. I think it shares a lot of the same themes.
Big monkey and big lizard. Let's go. I'm gonna watch Evangelion now.
It's a coming of age
like
thing.
A breakdown of the kaiju genre. There's a lot going on in Evangelion, and it's a hugely influential series plus movie. And it also gets very psychedelic at the end, I guess. Psychological is a better term, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of leads me into my second point. Is like Evangelion, right? Maybe it's trying to say something, or it's almost like a mockery of the genre that it's founding. It has like some kind of theme, and then with the original King Kong thing, it was like a metaphor for like slavery and the exploitation of black people, with the original Godzilla as a metaphor for nuclear war. And with this, it's like all of it is stripped away. There is no substance. There is no depth.
Well, there
There's
are themes, specifically believe conspiracy theories.
Yo,
Yeah, the Earth is hollow.
I'm not drinking
and
tap
also,
water anymore.
Yeah.
Tap water is for losers.
Yeah.
The Earth is hollow.
I mean, it has fluoride in it, and fluoride makes you more susceptible to mind control. So
damn, bro. Also,
Fluoride doesn't do that. Please, it's a joke. It doesn't do that.
Mechagodzilla. Yeah, and that's it. Those are the themes.
Yeah,
we're forgetting about the hottest take that they make, which is that capitalism is bad and rich people are evil, featuring comedically rich man with his evil goatee.
Yeah. Remember that?
It does
sort of. I don't know if it really.
It's.
I feel like it doesn't actually really do that. It's kind of just like what's an ideal for a bad guy? Cartoonish rich guy. There we go. Like. It's not real. I mean, I don't know. You could probably write an essay about it.
It's fucking called Apex. Like
Apex Legends.
Yeah.
Good game.
Sponsor us, please.
Please.
But
God, if we got sponsored by Apex Legends, that'd be kind of sick.
Can you imagine?
Sure.
If we got sponsored by anybody, that'd be kind of sick. Yeah. We should play Apex Legends.
Yeah.
When you guys get a chance.
I don't know if we're jumping the gun on this, but can we talk about Mechagodzilla for a second?
What about him?
No, I'm pretty sure we're talking about Apex Legends right now.
The whole Mechagodzilla arc that gets crammed in 10 minutes to the end of the movie.
I like it with Mechagodzilla showing up. It was kind of funny because we were talking about Pacific Rim, and Joe was like, "Yeah, I want like that in this movie," and I was like, "Yeah, I mean, you get that with like Mechagodzilla." And Mechagodzilla showed up, and I was like, "Yo, Mechagodzilla!"
Oh my god! When the one character to like, oh my god, it's a robot Godzilla, and then the other guy is like, no, it's Mecha Godzilla. It's so stupid.
Why was the main brain inside the skull of a monster? First off,
don't worry about it. It's science bullshit.
So it's like, it's a nano. Wait, no, it was a neural computer.
Yeah,
or something.
It's just like connected to the bones of.
It's
skull.
Connected to the bone zone.
Was it? I thought it just went through the holes
in the bones. Was it not even like? I thought they had like some story about how the DNA was like computing ancient stuff. Whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Just know that this guy is piloting it, and then he dies and the Mechagodzilla gets a mind of its own, and starts killing people.
That definitely wasn't going to happen. Very obviously,
and you can tell.
Twist.
One thing I caught is that with the Mechagodzilla, so Mechagodzilla's eyes are red by default, but then halfway through the movie, they decide that the eyes are going to symbolize like who's in control. Like they're blue when the guy is in control, and then they're red when like the inner Mechagodzilla soul thing takes over, and it fluctuates back and forth. I was like, I thought that was very lazy of them to be inconsistent with that. Like, what?
I mean, I guess. They needed it for like that one scene, and it doesn't show up any other scene.
Can I say I really wish like the conspiracy theory storyline just wasn't a part of it, and that you had Mechagodzilla like hinted at, but the way he would be hinted at is through you. Like it would be like you view it through the point of view of Godzilla, where you see him destroying a facility, you're not sure why. And there's just news reports about it, and then like throughout the film, it could be like, oh, he's just targeting specifically these facilities, and it's like, oh, why is he destroying them? And then Mechagodzilla turns up.
It's like it's not even like that would have been a surprise. Like it's
Yeah.
well established with Godzilla's character. It's well established in the American movies that he's always attracted to either nature atrocities or big guys threatening nature atrocities. And so the fact that they have to go, we're building a robot. Here's the eyeball. Did you forget about the eyeball? Now it's in the robot. It's like, he didn't have to do that. That was completely unnecessary.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, I definitely agree with the whole like conspiracy theorists plot really just doesn't add anything besides a bit of comedic relief, I guess.
Yeah. It's literally like it's used at the very end where like the one kid like he pours booze on the computer and then it fucks with Mechagodzilla for a second.
Which is the dumbest shit.
You could have just had the fight happen and it would have been much more entertaining. Yeah.
I just want to say that despite all this, I still kind of like enjoyed my time with this movie. Like I'm never going to watch this movie again for as long as I live, but while it was on, I wasn't complaining about it. Like sure it was dumb, sure it's bad, but like we got to after like the first 40 minutes, it really does start to kind of pick up the pace and be somewhat interesting, at least. Like once they get into the Hollow Earth, because that's how the world works. There's a Hollow Earth and there's this giant energy source there. Just open your mind.
Where does the
eye.
light come from?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Sun.
do you
Like,
guys
actually-
remember when they... Sorry, Joe?
No, you go.
I was gonna say, do you guys remember when they download energy?
Yeah.
Download energy? Wait, when does that happen?
Well, because
The robot-
the idea is that they're
Oh.
like downloading the material makeup of it, and then they somehow are able to like immediately create that material. And it's just like,
I thought it was just like, it's like, well, you need the password to get access to it or some shit. I don't know.
No, because the whole thing was that they were looking for the material because they heard that the middle, like the Hollow Earth, has this material that's super powerful, and that's why all these creatures exist.
And they never
And the
give
reason
it a
they
name,
can't
by the
run
way.
Mechagodzilla-
I don't think they ever give the material a name.
They
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
It's,
I mean, honestly, thank God, because if they did, it would be like a Transformers where you have Transformium or some shit.
but yeah, so the whole thing is that they need this material because it harnesses enough energy to create these creatures and sustain these creatures. So if we had that kind of power, we'd be able to power Mechagodzilla and he'd be able to do whatever. So it's clear, like, oh, they need to take the thing and apply it to Mechagodzilla. They don't have any and they need some. And then the robot just goes out and scans it and Xeroxes it, sends it, faxes it, and they're like, all right, Mechagodzilla's up and running because now we can print it. And it's just like, why? Why any of this? And like, if they had robots, why even send humans? Because you could have just sent the robots down into Hollow Earth. Like, what's the point?
That's actually a good. Why didn't you just send a fuck ton of drones to scour the area?
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, well, because they had. Well, I mean, I guess they could have built drones with the technology, but there's like the explanation where it's like, basically, if you go down there
gravity.
without specific gravity like technology, you just die because you're suddenly subject to a fuck ton of gravitational energy.
In case you guys are curious as well, that plot line about the brother who dies going into Hollow Earth, they literally just made that up for the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That is not established anywhere in the American movies. They just went, no, you have a dead brother, and that's why you're going to join us, because they're such hack frauds that they don't know how do I convince this guy that he needs to be on the crew, which is also like, why did they have this guy who spends all his time with pseudo-theoretical physics on the team that's going into Hollow Earth? Like, he doesn't actually need to be there.
It probably isn't even in the script. They probably made it up as they were shooting it.
He's technically like the expert on Hollow Earth, like in this world.
But like, he could have been comfy cozy transmitting from the evil base or like the tangential evil base. Because according to the world, Apex is doing nothing illegal. It's just that in their 33 basement, they have a magic tram that goes all the way to Hong Kong and sends eggs. Like they could have put him in accounting and just had him call in, because clearly they have the ability to communicate with each other through the gravitational field, which is a whole other thing I don't want to like try to conceptualize, because I'm a computer engineer. I'm not physics. But it's just like I'm still like, we mentioned the whiskey and how they tried to set that up of, oh, my girlfriend died of apex cancer and whiskey's all I got, and then they pour it out. And it's like, if he had a brain, if we establish that he's like, oh, he's sentient now because he sucked up the consciousness of his pilot, why is he still controlled by a satellite that can be tampered with whiskey? And why didn't they just do that to begin with? Why'd they spend all that time just like hacking into it? It's ridiculous.
Honestly, that computer let them like a lot of tries before it locked out as well. I don't know. It doesn't matter. And yes, you're right. There's no reason for that dude to be there, but he's there. So good for him, I guess. He like almost dies like 20 times. I guess we're supposed to care about him? I don't know. I don't even remember his name. Or Lind. Dr. Lind. Yeah, I remember his name. Good job, me. Let's see if I can remember another name.
I don't think I remember any of their names except for Godzilla and King Kong.
So there's
Mecha Godzilla.
Is the Lind dude. Gia is the name of the little kid that's friends with King Kong. Bernie is conspiracy theory dude. That's about it.
Nice.
That's more than I remember.
Oh man.
All right. Do we want to start wrapping it up? Because
Yeah.
Gonna be honest, I'm getting tired of talking about this movie.
Yeah,
That's fair. I'm just making myself more angry because I'm remembering all the things that they just kind of like jimmy together. The fact that he can get to the basement floor by just I press the button and I'm in the basement floor, like. But if I keep doing this, we're gonna be here all night with me just complaining about all these small things that are issues in my stupid Godzilla movie because I just wanted more fighting.
All right, yeah, let's finish up. This movie sucks. Gorilla dick.
Ooh.
No
Monkey
pun
dick.
intended. Yes, monkey dick. Go watch Pacific Rim, or Evangelion, but probably Pacific Rim instead. Thanks.
You'll probably enjoy Pacific Rim more if you're really hyped up for Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah.
And if you're a lunatic, then I guess you can watch Neon Genesis Evangelion if you feel like it.
Yeah.
Do you want to do scores?
Sure.
Yeah.
4 out of 10.
Okay.
That's it. So,
Thank
no
you.
discussion.
Yeah. I have to agree. I'd also give it a 4 out of 10. It's like it was enjoyable enough while it was on. It kept my attention. There's some dumb like action stuff that's fun, but it's just not nearly as satisfying as some other movies in the genre. And all of the human plot lines are terrible. But yeah, 4 out of 10. Wouldn't really recommend it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It's 4 out of 10 for me as well. And that's especially due to the fact that it reminded me of Pacific Rim, which is a better movie in the sense that it delivers what I want. And it doesn't try to screw it up with nonsense. I mean, there's human plot lines, but like the human plot lines are kept bare bones and concise because that's not what I want. And all it did was remind me how much I just want to watch more Pacific Rim instead of this. So yeah, 4 out of 10. Millie Bobby Brown. I don't know if you chose to make that character, but boy oh boy was that a bad character, and I hope that you can recover because I hate it, and I will forever think about that whenever I see her face.
All right. Dang. I guess I'm kind of like the dissenting opinion here, because
Just gonna give it a 10.
I know I'm gonna give this movie like a very light 6 out of 10.
Damn.
Just because I don't hate it. like it's not good. I'm not out here gonna be like, oh, you guys just don't appreciate the monkey versus dino movie. But like, I had some fun at the end. You got the fights. Sure, the fights don't have any gravity to them really, but like, there's some cool. It's got its moments. I think. Yeah. I'm like I said, I'm never gonna watch this movie again for my entire life, but it's not the worst thing. So there's that.
Wonderful.
Wow.
If I didn't have such expectations for this movie, and I don't know if I should be embarrassed to admit that, but I had high hopes for this movie.
I did
I
too.
might have been more lenient on the score, but I am a scorned wife, and as a result, I will tell everybody about how terrible my husband is.
Interesting. When this movie started, it gave me a lot of like Battleship vibes, so that immediately kind of lowered my expectations quite a bit.
I did not see Battleship.
I
Probably
can't
shouldn't.
say I'd recommend it.
Yeah. I guess that does it for the podcast then.
Yeah.
What?
Cool.
No?
Yeah.
Good job, us. So for next week, tune in because we're also gonna have another thrilling show. The album is gonna be "Songs About Jane" by Maroon 5. Classic.
They're the only album people really like it from them.
Yeah.
So.
And the
Tell me
film is
people don't
gonna
like
be.
bands all over.
No, it's fine. Oh, okay. The film is going to be The Piano Teacher by Michael Haneke. So that's just a ball of fun.
Wow. We're going from one higher energy movie to another, just pure excitement all around. I can't wait for The Piano Teacher to punch the shit out of Godzilla.
Yeah. And the question of next week is going to be, what is the best Kanye album? Bit of a controversial artist Kanye is.
We're gonna see. I feel like everyone has a different answer to the question.
Yeah.
So we will see.
Interesting discussion. Right. Anyways, anything else you guys want to say before we end it here?
No, I think that's everything.
As my dad often says his catchphrase, brush your teeth, bitch.
All right. Thank you. And good night.
All right.